Good morning, everybody. So there I was talking to a friend of mine about Thanksgiving this week. We were talking about all the fun stuff. Smoked turkey, sweet potato pie, pumpkin pie, cranberry sauce out the can. And she asked me, she says, "What are you thankful for?" And I start naming awesome things. I'm thankful for a roof over my head. I'm thankful for a furnace that works 80% of the time. And when it doesn't, a handy wood stove right there in the living room. And she's, "Well, I'm thankful for a job, and I'm thankful for my kids, and I'm thankful for sunlight." And, I'm like, "Oh, that's all, like, great stuff." But she's like, "Well, the things that you're, like, listing seem just like, like small things. Like, what about the big things you're thankful for?" I said, "Those are the big things, because those are the things we take for granted." And you ever feel like you look around at people, whether it's in Hollywood or whatever, and think about all these things that everybody seems to be getting and they're so blessed with, and this guy's got millions, he's got 10 cars, and this, that, and the other. And ask anybody who's got money, and they'll all tell you the same thing, that is not what's made them happy. And it drew me to Psalm 37. It says, "Don't worry about the wicked or envy those who do wrong, for like grass they soon fade away, like spring flowers they soon will." And my screen got cut off. "Trust in the Lord and do good, then you will live safely in the land and prosper. Take delight in the Lord, and he will give you your heart's desires." And that's when it takes me back to your heart's desires. Like, sure, I'd love to have all these things, but what really matters at the end of the day? So just for, like, one example, I'm on this, like, crazy diet right now where I'm eating, like, less than 1,000 calories a day. And everybody I tell this to, they're like, "Oh, you poor thing, you must be miserable." And I'm like, it's having less that makes me so much more thankful for what I have, because right now, a peanut butter and jelly sandwich is intoxicating. It's because you taste like every little bit. And before, when I would order a pizza from Little Caesars right here, because I think we're single-handedly keeping them in business at this point, I would order a large pizza, and by the time I leave here in the evening, it's gone. And I found myself getting so much more thankful for, like, just a little bit of food here and there, a little bit of this and a pinch of that, and it feels good to feel good at the end of the day. And everyone's, "Oh, you must be so miserable. You're doing this workout routine, and you're eating so little." And I haven't been this happy in months with less than half of what I was taking in before. And so you look at all these people who have all these things, and it's like, well, what I'm really thankful for is just the stuff I need, not the stuff that I want. And so that kind of tied in with some of the songs that we're doing this morning. Would you stand? God, we thank you for this morning. We thank you for, I shouldn't say a season of Thanksgiving, because we should always be in that mindset. But as we prepare for the holidays, we ask that you would just put all of our hearts in a place of contentment. Contentment is what happens when what we have becomes enough. And with you, everything that we have is enough, because you give us everything we need when we need it. And we just thank you for that. And we thank you that no matter what, we are eternally yours. I know this life I lead will pass away, along with every other earthly thing. But I will set my heart on a higher plane, where all my treasures lie with you. And in this marriage of our hearts, there is no death to us part. For you are eternal, and I am eternally I can never lose you to divorce. There's no concept of abandonment, for I am safe within your arms. And in this marriage of our hearts, there is no death to us part. For you are eternal, I am eternally yours. I never had enough. I never had enough until I met you. I never knew love until I met you. I never had enough until I found you. Now I have everything. And in this marriage, of our hearts, there is no death to us part. For you are eternal, and I am eternally yours. This life will pass away, but you will never change. This life will pass away, but you will never change. This life will pass away, but you will never change. This life will pass away, but you will never change. Here I am. Here I am, humbled by your majesty, covered by your grace so free. Here I am, knowing I'm a sinful man, covered by the blood of the Lamb. And now I found the greatest love of all is mine, since you laid down your life, the greatest sacrifice. Sing Majesty. Majesty, Majesty, your grace has found me just as I am, empty-handed but alive in your hands. Here I stand, humbled by the love that you give, forgiven so that I can forgive. Here I stand, knowing that I'm your desire. sweetest sacrifice. Sing majesty. 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 Your grace has found me just as I am. Empty-handed but alive in your hands. Singing majesty. Majesty. Forever. Forever I am changed by your love. In the presence of your majesty. 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 Your grace has found me just as I am. Empty-handed but alive in your hands. Majesty. 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 Forever I am changed by your love. In the presence of your majesty. Majesty, one more time. Majesty. Majesty. Forever. Forever I am changed by your love. In the presence of your majesty.
You can have a seat for a minute. How is everyone today? Very good. So a couple of things. First and foremost, in terms of announcements, probably the most important announcement is if this is your first Sunday here, a very big welcome to you. We're so glad that you are here. My name's David, and if you have not had a chance to meet me, please do so after service. On your way out, if you did not do this on the way in, we have a little thing called the Connect Corner, and at that Connect Corner, we have a little gift for you. And just a little chance for us to get some information from you so we can follow up with you and just, again, to say thank you for being with us this morning. Couple things in terms of announcements. Not first and foremost, I just did first and foremost. Second and foremost. Is that no, that's wrong. So, Cole is doing a documentary, and he has to do a documentary for his final project. He's at Mount Union, and he's in his film and media classes, and so he's doing a documentary. And he's doing a documentary on us. So when you see him coming through service with a camera, and if he's getting like right in my face or in your face, it's for the documentary. It's not because we're trying to get like close-ups of me. That would not help. That would be bad. So just if you see him wandering around, that's what he is doing. We are getting into the holiday season. There's a couple of things that I want to mention to you as we approach that season. In your bulletin, there is a little letter about something called Giving Tuesday. I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but it's been a pretty strong tradition now for about 15, 20 years. And it comes on the heels of a few things. The day after Thanksgiving is, does everybody know? Black Friday. And then Saturday is, do you know what that one is? Small Business Saturday. And then Monday is Cyber Monday, which leaves us Giving Tuesday. So I don't know how well thought out it is. After you spend all of your money, then there's a push. But a lot of churches, a lot of organizations, a lot of charities, they tried to turn our attention to Giving Tuesday, to sort of make that a focus, and that you would do something specific or special on Giving Tuesday. And so what we're going to do for Giving Tuesday is we are going to make our youth our focus for Giving Tuesday. So there's a letter that explains all of that, and we're really looking to really fund everything that the youth is going to do for next year. We would love to be able to do that in one day. And so we're excited about that. You don't have to do anything until Tuesday. If you want to do something ahead of time, that's fine, just as long as you mark it as that. But I'm also interested in the goal of trying to make as many people go to the website and to actually do it online. It would be nice to sort of see it sort of build and grow throughout the day. So if you are not sure how to do any of that stuff online, or if that all scares you, come see me or see Cole. He'll help you with any of that. But we would love for you to be thinking about that after you've spent all the other days shopping and all of that. How many of you are like the 5 a.m.? We don't have any of those in here, do we? Like, you're going to go get a toaster at 4:30 at Walmart? Okay. So, yeah, just save your money and just give it on that Tuesday. So, other things that are coming up. Our angel tree is going to be up next Sunday. So just be thinking about that. Obviously, there's a lot of opportunities for you to give and to serve, but the Salvation Army tree will be up next Sunday. And also next Sunday, for those that are interested, we are going to be starting decorating. So if you want to stay after a little bit next Sunday and just help us decorate. We went through the whole cleaning process 2 weeks ago, and that was amazing. But now it is time to deck the halls and all of that. So that's going to start next Sunday after service. And if you can't do that, if you can't stay, there'll be a couple of days following, before Thanksgiving, that you can actually help with that. Because, the first Sunday of Advent is it's November 30th. So the Sunday right after Christmas, we get into all of that. In your announcement, in your bulletin, there's a couple of things that we're announcing for Christmas. There's a lot of things that are going to be happening during Christmas. One of the biggest ones, and I'm not sure it actually made it into the bulletin, but on December 12th, we put something in last week. We'll have to put it in again. We are excited about our Lessons in Carols service. That is a Friday night, and so we're excited. Now, that is all assuming that there's a team that is not still playing on Friday night. But, and if that still happens, we'll have to figure that out. But our Lessons in Carols service is on December 12th, and we're excited about that. And we're looking forward to all the things the choir and all the musicians are getting ready for that. Tammy and Mike have been hard at work on getting that planned, so we're looking forward to that. Another thing that's happening, there's something called a family service that's going to take place on the 21st, okay? So what's going to happen at this family service, I'm going to give you a vision for this, and I want you to get excited about this. We're going to be back downstairs in the fellowship hall, and the first thing is it's the last Sunday before Christmas, Christmas Eve. So we're going to do an ugly sweater day, okay? So if you have an ugly Christmas sweater, you are allowed to wear it. If you don't have one, you're allowed to buy one, okay? Or you can some people have gone past the sweater, they've gone to ugly suit, like there's a whole suit thing that people wear. You can wear whatever festive, whatever you want on that Sunday, okay? And it's going to be a fun service downstairs. It'll be very casual. We're going to sing a lot of Christmas carols. It'll be a lot of fun. Now, what else we're doing is we're going to decorate each of the tables that are downstairs. Now, what we're looking for is people to adopt a table. And what I mean by that is if you so choose, you can decorate this table however you want. So whatever theme you want, if you want like Charlie Brown Christmas or Star Wars Christmas or Nightmare Before Christmas or 12 Days of Christmas or whatever. You can put it wherever you want. If you want to choose a sports team, that's probably where I'll go. You can put that on the table. So you can decorate the table however you want, okay? And we're going to ask, if you adopt a table, we're going to ask you also to bring cookies, because we're going to have cookies and milk at our family service on the 21st. And so we're looking for folks who are willing to adopt a table and just decorating. It's just going to be a lot of fun. We're just looking to have a wonderfully fun and festive season. So there's a bunch of other stuff that's going on. We'll talk about that as we go. But I think that is it in terms of announcements. So with that, I'm going to ask the ushers to come forward for our time of offering. Our message this morning has to do with cleaning stuff out. And it is that time of year where it's not quite Christmas, but it is now upon each of us to clean out our garages and the storage things, to pull out all of the Christmas bins, and just wondering how you have that many Christmas bins over time. And they keep growing, and you can throw a bunch of stuff away the year before, and they still continue to grow. It's a miracle. So my jokes this morning have to do with the idea of cleaning stuff out. Okay, and they're terrible. So I'm just going to tell you ahead of time. Okay, I was looking for a job. I was hoping to get a job cleaning mirrors. It's really something that I could see myself doing. Yeah. I once had a job cleaning other people's pools. It started off swimmingly, but soon it got to be too draining. And the third one. And every year, just before Easter, I give up cleaning the dryer filter. You know, for Lent. So, there it is. So, let's open up with a word of prayer. We'll forget all those and we'll move into something serious. So, God, we thank you for this morning. We thank you for everything that you have done for us, that you've given to us. We thank you for the opportunity to gather. God, we pray that you would speak to us this morning, that you would allow us to perhaps clean out some things that we need to have cleaned out, to refocus ourselves as we begin the process of entering in to Christmas and Advent and all that the season brings. And all this we pray in your name. Amen. We have been cleaning out, and we've done this at home, and we have been doing this here. A few weeks ago, I did mention that we did clean out. There's a thing called the flower room that is downstairs, and we cleaned that out. And if you were a part of that, just raise your hand so I can see who. Oh my goodness, that was amazing. And it was like we just kept pulling things out. Like the whole fellowship hall was full, and it all came from this little room. And so we threw out so much stuff. We filled up one dumpster. I had to call Kimball to come back out, schedule another day, and we actually filled up a second dumpster and had it all towed away. But one of the things that happen when you start to clean out things, whether it is here or at home, it's an interesting process. You know, cleaning out things or pulling things out, getting ready to decorate. For some, and maybe for all of us, it can be a kind of an emotional thing. You know, you start pulling out ornaments, you start pulling out things, and what you quickly realize, it is not just a box of lights, it's not just a box of ornaments, it's a box of stories. It's a box of memories. It's a box of good memories. Perhaps there's a reminder or two of some of the hard things that you've had to go through. Perhaps there's the recognition that there's some broken relationships represented in that box. Nostalgia has a great power, but it has the power to move us sometimes into the positive or the negative. That we could sometimes get caught in saying, I wish it was just the way it used to be, or if I could just get back to this point, or I remember when I was happy at this point, and what happened, or where did it go wrong, or anything along those lines. And so this morning I was just sort of thinking about that process, the process of cleaning things out and what it might do to us. Because the process of cleaning out sort of maybe stirs in you the same thing it stirs in me. I need to get stuff together. I need to get more organized. I need to, there's some things I do need to get rid of. There's some things that I probably need to get, all of that. And as we're in that mode, as we're thinking about those things, that's where I want to take us this morning. It was a bright Sunday morning in 18th century London, but Robert Robinson's mood was anything but sunny. All along the street, people were hurrying on their way to church. But in the midst of this crowd, Robinson was a lonely man. The sound of church bells reminded him of years past when his faith in God was strong and the church was an integral part of his life. But in fact, it had been years since he had darkened the door of a local church. And these were years of wandering. These were years of disillusionment. These were years of a gradual sort of defection where he was sort of stepping away from God, the God that he once loved. He found himself at certain stages of life. He would go through these points where he would move from church to church, and once he sort of found what he thought was a good church, he would find himself in some kind of schism or some kind of argument or disagreement, and then he would go to a different church, and then it would grow to a denominational level. Like, well, I like what these folks are doing for a little bit, but then he'll sort of get disgruntled, and then he would go to another denomination, and eventually, it just drew him away. The whole process of looking for the perfect place, and he allowed himself to crumble. He allowed himself really to fall apart. And he had a love for God at one point. It was fiery. It was passionate. He had slowly burned out. And most of us may have had a point where you have burned out. Maybe some of you are in that point right now. You just kind of burned out. Like, if I have one more thing happen to me, I'm done. I'm just kind of at that point. So he's sort of sitting there thinking, and he can sort of hear the clip-clop of a carriage that's coming down his way. And for some reason, as he's sort of sitting there on this bench, this carriage comes past him, and for some reason, the woman that is in this carriage, she orders the driver to stop. She says, "Sir, I'd be happy to share this carriage with you," she said to Robinson. And she asked him a question. "Are you going to church?" Robinson was about to say no. He was about to say it. Then he paused. And he said something he did not even really plan on saying. He said, Yes, I am going to church." And again, he wasn't even really sure where that came from. He stepped into the carriage, and he sat down across from the young woman, and the carriage started to roll forward. Robinson and the woman exchanged pleasantries and introductions, but there was a certain point where she starts to look at him, and she's just kind of squinting and looking, and she says, I don't mean to be rude, this might be a coincidence, but she reaches into her purse and she pulls out a small book of inspirational verses. She opens the book, and there's a little page with a little ribbon bookmark in it, and she opens to that page. She says, "I was just reading a verse by a poet. His name is Robert Robinson. And you look just like him." And he took the book, and he's reading those words, and he starts to nod, and he says, "Yes, I did. I wrote these words many years ago." She goes, That's wonderful. That is wonderful. Imagine that. I'm sharing a carriage with the author of these very lines. But Robinson barely heard her. He was sort of lost at what he was looking at on the page. He started to get absorbed in those words that he was reading. And the words that he wrote that one day, he had set to music, and they eventually became a great hymn of faith, familiar to generations of Christians. You see, if you go back a little bit, Robinson was born. He was born in 1735 in Suffolk, England, and his childhood was marked by hardship and loss. His father had died when he was 8 years old, leaving him and his mother in poverty. As a result, he was a troublemaker. He just found himself getting into all kinds of bad situations and finding himself surrounded by the wrong kinds of people. He got a job. He was a barber's apprentice. There was a point where that was sort of a thing where you would have somebody who would come and learn what you were doing. But eventually, he couldn't even really keep that job. He got involved in a little rowdy gang, and they were sort of mischievous and sort of wandering the streets, causing trouble. But really, at the heart of it, they were just looking for meaning, trying to figure the whole thing out. On a random Sunday, he and his friends, they ran into a gypsy, okay? And they decided to invite this gypsy to start drinking with them. And they drank so much that the gypsy became intoxicated. And they were having fun, and they were just causing trouble, and they were just sort of making fun of her, and they were saying, "Hey, gypsy, give us a free fortune. Tell us a free fortune." You know, they're just being just rude. And out of a weird moment, this gypsy says to Robinson, almost like her whole face cleared up for a moment, and she says, "You will live to see your children and your grandchildren." And he sort of stepped back from that for a second, because he knew he was not living the kind of life that was going to lead to marriage or family or children, anything along those lines. And those words cut him. They cut through his bravado. They cut through everything. And that fortune really turned into a kind of a prophecy that was given to him. And those words began to swim around in his head, in his mind, until there was really nothing that he could do to ignore it. Now, his friends kept trying to get him to, hey, snap out of it. She didn't, whatever she said. She was drunk. I mean, don't pay a whole lot of attention to it. Hey, let's go. I got a plan. We're going to go down to the revival. There was a local tent revival. This was happening in 1752. And they intended to heckle the deluded Methodists, okay? But they had no idea that the preacher that was there was a man named George Whitefield, a very famous Methodist revivalist. And so they go into the tent revival, and they had it all planned. They're going to raise their hands, and they're going to cause trouble, and they're going to make noise, and they're going to do all that they could do to disrupt this meeting. But George Whitefield was preaching that night, and he was preaching on a very particular text, Matthew chapter 3, verse 7. And the old King James says, "O generation of vipers, who hath warned you to flee from the wrath to come?" And for some reason, that struck him. And it was that verse and the things that were said to him by the gypsy that really started to swirl and eventually sunk into his heart. And he said that he began to weep. And he really wept for days, for weeks. He really could not get the concept out of his mind. And it didn't happen all in one night. It wasn't like just miraculous. It wasn't like he was struck by lightning. There was a series of events that continued to push him and push him and push him. And eventually, on December 10th, 1755, Robert Robinson found what he described as the full and free forgiveness through the precious blood of Jesus Christ. That's a quote from him. This transformation, at the time, this transformation was genuine. And the once rowdy youth was now consumed by a desire to know and to serve God. He started to travel across England, seeking out the leading gospel preachers of his time. And he was sort of looking, I want to listen to this person. I want to listen to this person. I want to sit under this person's teaching. It was like he just went from sermon to sermon to sermon, looking for a message. And it was at this time when he was 22 years old that he wrote a hymn. And the hymn is entitled, Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing. And it goes like this: Come thou fount of every blessing, tune my heart to sing thy grace. Streams of mercy never ceasing, call for songs of loudest praise. And that's what he was reading that day in the carriage. Just that first stanza. His eyes slipped to the bottom of the page where he read, Prone to wander, Lord, I feel it. Prone to leave the God I love. Here's my heart. Oh, take and seal it. Seal it for thy courts above. And as he sat there in the carriage, he began to weep again. He could barely read that last line through the tears that brimmed in his eyes. He says, I wrote these words and I lived for these words. Prone to wander, prone to leave the God I love. And the woman sort of tried to figure out what exactly was going on. And she interrupts him. She says, you also wrote, here's my heart. Oh, take and seal it. You can offer your heart to God again, Mr. Robinson. It's not too late. And it wasn't. It wasn't too late for Robert. And in that moment, he again turned his heart back to God and walked with him the rest of his life. And what I'm going to invite you to do at this moment is I'm going to invite all of us. We're going to sing that famous hymn. And so you should have a hymnal close by to you or within hand's reach. But we're going to sing the famous hymn, Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing. It's on page 2 of your hymnal. And if you will, please stand.
Please stand. Stand.
Come thou fount of every blessing, to my heart to see thy grace, streams of mercy never ceasing, call for songs of loudest praise. Teach me some melodious sonnet, some my favorite tongue above. Praise his name, I'm fixed upon it, name of God's redeeming love. Hitherto thy love has cleansed me, thou hast brought me to this place, and I know thy hand will bring me safely home by thy good grace. Jesus saw me when a stranger, wandering from the fold of God. He to rescue me from danger, but to give his precious blood. Oh, to praise the great Redemptor, daily I'm constrained to be. Let thy goodness like a fetter, like my wandering heart to thee. Prone to wander, Lord, I feel it, prone to leave the God I love. Here's my heart, oh, take and seal it for thy courts above.
You may be seated.
Absolutely. I want to go back in time a little bit farther. After King Hezekiah died in 686 BC, his son Manasseh ascended to the throne of Judah at the age of 12. If you ever pick up the Old Testament, you're going through the books of 1st and 2nd Kings and 1st and 2nd Chronicles, there are story after story of the kings of Israel and Judah. And for the most part, it's a little depressing because you go through story of king after king after king, and most of them are pretty terrible. Most of them are not really good. But this story is amazing. And again, after King Hezekiah dies, his son Manasseh ascends to the throne of Judah at the age of 12. And Hezekiah was faithful. Hezekiah walked in the ways of the Lord. But his son Manasseh chose to turn his back on his father's God, and he decided to carve out his own path. Now, Manasseh was probably one of the worst kings ever to rule Judah. And that's saying something because there were a lot of them. There were a lot of them. In fact, in many ways, he was worse than some of the heathen kings that ruled the surrounding nations. He was so bad. During his lifetime, he established a cult to a pagan god called Ashtoreth. And the goddess Ashtoreth, she was the goddess of fertility. And the worship of Asherah or Ashtoreth involved a great deal of immorality, things that were just really unspeakable to describe. And in addition, Manasseh also established what we call Baal worship, which was a constant thing that would come up in the Old Testament and would be tempted by the neighboring cultures to lead the Israelites astray. Baal, the worship of Baal was also just as terrible, and it often would lead to human sacrifice, blood sacrifices, all kinds of things. And that's what this king was doing. He was introducing these two deities, these two idols, and encouraging the people of God to worship those things. The Bible tells us that Manasseh offered up his own children as sacrifices. He had dabbled in the occult involving astrology. He was brutal. He was tyrannical. He was so bad that in 1 Kings chapter 21, it says, "Furthermore, Manasseh shed very much innocent blood until he had filled Jerusalem from one end to the other, because his sin into which he misled Judah in doing evil in the sight of God was so great." He was bad. Now, God sent prophets to Manasseh over and over and over again and tried to convince him, tried to say, hey, you have to stop. You have to change. You have to cease worshiping these two idols. You have to go away from these pagan traditions. But he persisted. He continued to walk down the path that he was choosing. And unfortunately, he was not going to listen at all. Now, the Assyrians, and remember we talked about the Assyrians back when we were in our series in Jonah. The Assyrians were known for their cruelty and their ruthless warmongering. And the Assyrians at one point attacked the nation, and they took Manasseh captive. Now, when you took a king captive, that was sort of a prize. You would not kill them right away. You would sort of parade them around, make fun of them. Eventually, you would kill them, but it was sort of it was a trophy. You would sort of keep them, make fun of them, all kinds of things. And what we are led to believe is that there was a lot of torture that came the way of Manasseh, that he was just tortured over and over and over again. In 2 Chronicles chapter 33, it says, when he was in distress, he did something, though. So in the midst of all this torture that was taking place to him in Assyria, he cries out to the Lord. The Lord that he had forsaken all these years, the Lord that he had propped up these statues instead of him, he appeals to God. And when he prays to him, he was moved by him, speaking about God. He heard his pleading and brought him back to Jerusalem to his kingdom. Then Manasseh knew that the Lord alone was God. And it's an incredible story. It's an incredible story. Now, here's a terrible guy. Terrible, terrible guy. And when you hear a story like that, one of the things that you sort of think, like, it's really that, it's that simple. God just looked over that. He just looked past that. He just forgave him just like that. Yeah. Yeah. It's one of the most poignant conversion experiences in the Old Testament, to see someone go from that side to that side so quickly. But how could God forgive someone like that, just like that? Well, the truth we find is in Isaiah chapter 53, verse 6, which reads, "All of us like sheep have gone astray. Each of us has turned to his own way, but the Lord has caused the wrongdoing of us all to fall on him." All of us like sheep have gone astray. Now, after Manasseh died, his son Amon ruled in his stead. Now, Amon tried to be just as bad as his father. He didn't really care for the whole conversion thing that his dad went through, and so he decided, I'm going to wind it all back. I'm going to go back to the way that we were before. It says that he walked entirely in the way that his father had walked and served the idols that his father had served, and he worshiped them. Now, even though Manasseh had this powerful conversion experience, there was some residual, and we always sort of find that. Even if you have some kind of conversion, if you just sort of fix everything, you got to realize there's going to be some pieces that you're going to have to pick up eventually. There's going to be some things that are sort of left. There's going to be some things that are broken. And that broken story, unfortunately, was Amon. Now, Amon's reign did not last very long. Maybe fortunately or unfortunately, however you want to view that. He was killed after just 2 years of being on the throne. And eventually, Amon's son took over. Now, this king, young king, his name was Josiah. Now, Josiah, he took the throne when he was just 8 years old. 8 years old when he began to rule. He was very young. He was impressionable. Yet there was something about him. There was something pure. There was something true about his desire to serve God. Now, Josiah reigned for 31 years, and each one of those years was marked with continual progress in doing right. Now, this incredible thing happens when he's 25 years old. He's worshiping God, and he's trying to lead the nation back, but he realizes that the temple is in disrepair. The temple's just a mess. And there are whole sections of the temple, there's whole sections of the complex that really have not been touched. They have not been gone through, they have not been cleaned out, sort of like my garage. There's just whole sections that are just sitting there, I know I'm going to get to them eventually. And so he sets about, he says, we're going to clean out the temple, okay? And you should run from every dad that says, today we're going to clean out the garage. Just start going, okay? But he goes, and he orders his priest, Hilkiah, he's actually the high priest, and he goes and he sends him into the temple. And after a while, they're cleaning out things, and Hilkiah, he finds something. He finds a set of scrolls. In fact, he finds the scrolls of the first 5 books of the Bible. The Hebrew word for that is the Torah. And in reality, no one had heard a single word from the Torah for hundreds of years. And so he comes out, and the first book that he hands to Josiah is a copy of the book of Deuteronomy. And in 2 Kings chapter 22, it says this. It says, and Hilkiah, the high priest, said to Shaphan, the secretary, I have found the book of the law in the house of the Lord. And Hilkiah gave the book to Shaphan, and he read it. And Shaphan, the secretary, came to the king and reported to the king, your servants have emptied out the money that was found in the house and delivered it into the hand of the workmen who have the oversight of the house of the Lord. Then Shaphan, the secretary, told the king, Hilkiah, the priest, has given me a book. And Shaphan read it before the king. When the king heard the words of the book of the law, he tore his clothes. And in that culture, that was sort of the sign of just incredible emotion. You would tear your clothes if someone had died, or you heard shocking news, or someone was invading, or you just sort of knew something incredible was happening. And he was overwhelmed when he heard the words that were being read from this scroll. And he commanded Hilkiah, the priest, and Ahikam, the son of Shaphan, and Achbor, the son of Micaiah, and Shaphan the secretary, and Asaiah, the king's servant, saying, Go inquire of the Lord for me, and for the people, and for all Judah, concerning the words of this book that has been found. For great is the wrath of the Lord that is kindled against us, because our fathers have not obeyed the words of this book, to do all according to what is written concerning us. And you go into the next chapter, 2 Kings 23, says, Then the king sent, and all the elders of Judah and Jerusalem were gathered to him. And the king went up to the house of the Lord, and with him all the men of Judah and all the inhabitants of Jerusalem, and the priests and the prophets, all the people, both great and small. And he read in their hearing all the words of the book of the covenant that had been found in the house of the Lord. And we're not going to read the whole book of the covenant because we're just not going to do that. But there's one chapter that I do want us to read. And it is Deuteronomy chapter 6. And I'm going to invite each of you, as Melissa comes to read this, I'm going to invite each of you to stand, just as those who are hearing it for the first time.
These are words spoken by Moses to the people who were soon to cross over into the promised land. So words spoken to those who had wandered for 40 years in the wilderness. Now these are the commandments, the statutes and the rules that the Lord your God commanded me to teach you, that you may do them in the land which you are going to possess, that you may fear the Lord your God, you and your son and your son's son, by keeping all his statutes and his commandments all the days of your life, that your days may be long. Hear, therefore, O Israel, and be careful to do them, that it may go well with you, and that you may multiply greatly, as the Lord, the God of your fathers, has promised you, in a land flowing with milk and honey. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your might. And these words that I command you today shall be on your heart. You shall teach them diligently to your children, and shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. You shall bind them as a sign on your hand, and they shall be a frontlet between your eyes. You shall write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. And when the Lord your God brings you into the land that he swore to your fathers, to Abraham, Isaac, and to Jacob to give you, a land with great and good cities that you did not build, and with houses full of things that you did not gather, and cisterns that you did not dig, and vineyards and olive trees that you did not plant. When you eat and are full, then take care, lest you forget the Lord who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. It is the Lord your God you shall fear. Him you shall serve, and by his name you shall swear. You shall not go after other gods, the gods of the peoples who are around you, for the Lord your God in your midst is a jealous God. The anger of the Lord your God will be kindled against you, and he will destroy you from off the face of the earth. You shall not put the Lord your God to the test. As you tested him at Massah, you shall diligently keep the commandments of the Lord your God, and his testimonies, and his statutes. And you shall do what is right and good in the sight of the Lord, that it may go well with you, and that you may go in and take possession of the good land that the Lord swore to give to your fathers, by thrusting out all your enemies from before you, just as the Lord promised. When your son asks you in time to come, what is the meaning of the testimonies and the statutes and the rules that the Lord our God has commanded you? Then you shall say to your son, we were Pharaoh's slaves in Egypt, and the Lord brought us out of Egypt with a mighty hand. And the Lord showed signs and wonders, great and grievous, against Egypt and against Pharaoh and all his household, right before our eyes. And he brought us out from there, that he might bring us in and give us the land that he swore to give our fathers. And the Lord commanded us to do all these statutes, to fear the Lord our God for our good always, that he might preserve us alive as we are this day. And it will be righteousness for us if we are careful to do all the commandments before the Lord our God, just as he has commanded us. This is the word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God. You may be seated. There's something about hearing that whole chapter while we stand, and I hope it lands on you in the appropriate way. One of the verses that's in there in Deuteronomy chapter 6 is actually verses 4 and 5. It says, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might." The idea that sort of lands on Josiah and is reaffirmed in his heart, there is only one God. For any of you that are trying to worship a bunch of stuff, or for any of you that sort of have a hierarchy, and admittedly, maybe you don't have a bunch of statues in your house that you're worshiping, there are things that sort of take the place, that take your love, that take your affection, that take your time. But there is only one, and you need to love that God with all your heart, soul, and mind. Now, those two verses, verses 4 and 5 of Deuteronomy chapter 6, it is known in Hebrew as the Shema, and it is the central prayer in Judaism. It's a declaration of faith. When you would hear the words, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one," this is something that they will usually recite every single day. It's a fundamental affirmation and a belief in the command that God has given to them. Now, when you first hear it, the first phrase, "Hear, O Israel," that phrase, to hear or to listen, that is what Shema means. If you translate that, it means to hear and to listen. Okay, I know this as a father. There's a huge difference between hearing and listening. Okay, you know, I know. Okay, and so it's the command to pay attention, really listen to what this is saying. And there's a daily practice to this. There's a daily practice where they would pray. This prayer would usually be recited at least twice a day, and it would symbolize a commitment to God's calling on their life. Now, they, as it says in this chapter, what they did, and there are some groups of the Jewish faith that still practice this. They will actually they take these words literally, that you should tie these things to your forehead, you should tie them to your arm, you should put them on your doorposts. And there are some that actually do this. There is a thing, this is called the tefillin, which is a little small box that you would put, they actually take the words of Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 4 and 5, they make them into a little scroll, and they will actually put them in this little box, and they will tie them around their head, or they'll tie it around their arm. Or if you've ever gone to a Jewish home or Hebrew home, if you go to their door, there will be something on their doorpost called a mezuzah, which contains a little piece of this scroll. Now, I'm not saying go do that. I don't want anybody to come in next week, you got a bunch of Bibles taped to your face and, all of that, okay? But there was an importance to this. There was an importance to this truth that they kept going through in their minds over and over and over. It was important to Josiah, and he knew the people had been missing something. So imagine for a second, if every time you look in the mirror, you didn't think of yourself, you thought of the Shema. That you thought of this phrase, "Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one." Try it the next time you're looking in the mirror. You don't have to, again, don't tape it to your forehead, okay? But imagine the next time you look at your watch. You're not late, you're not being inconvenienced, you're not hoping that the person who's talking me gets to hurry up here, okay? Every time you look at your wrist, that you have these words come through your mind. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. Each time you're walking, there was a little thing that they would put in their robes called the tzitzit, that was sort of like a little fringe, and they would write the words of the Shema on these little scrolls, and they would actually sew them into the fringes of their robes. And the idea is, as you're walking, okay, and hopefully you're watching where you go, okay, they would be reminded every time they looked down at their feet, every time they looked down, they would be reminded of the words of the Shema. Think about it. Every time you walk, every time you look down at your feet, every time you wake up and tie your shoes in the morning, that you start hearing the Shema in your mind. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. It's powerful. Now, Josiah, before this point, he had already made a lot of headway. He had already gone through most of the nation. He was clearing out idols everywhere. There were these things called high places where they would build these little mounds, and they would put little altars and idols on the top of these places. And he went about the business of tearing all of these down. But this gave him the fuel to complete the task. He redoubles his efforts, and he meticulously scours the kingdom for every trace of idolatry, and he worked hard to eliminate it. Would any of us want to take that on, to go through our lives and meticulously try to take down the high places that we've built? What are your high places? What are the things that you have allowed to accumulate over time? What is in our vernacular, what is the stuff that's in the garage that needs to be cleaned out? And if you don't have something like the Shema that sort of runs through your mind on a daily basis, there is a script. There's something that you repeat every single day. There's something that you repeat about yourself. There's something that you repeat about your family. There's something that you repeat about your friends. There's something that you repeat about politics. There's something that we repeat about the Cleveland Browns. There's something that you repeat every single day. Okay? You have a script, and it's sort of in there. And what Josiah knows, the truth is, you need a different script. You need to have something else that's running through your mind. Perhaps you need the words of the hymn. Perhaps you need to have the idea, "Come thou fount of every blessing." Maybe you need to have something else take over the words in your mind. In 2 Kings 23:25, speaking of Josiah, it says that before him there was no king like him who turned to the Lord with all his heart, and with all his soul, and with all his might, in conformity to the law of Moses. It became so important to him. The Shema became so important to who he was that when people talked about him, when people talked about his story, they used those words to describe him. He pursued God with all of his heart, with all of his soul, with all of his might. Wow. Where are you in your walk today? Like the hymn writer, have you found yourself drifting away from the arms of God's love? Have you forgotten the power of the cross? Have you forgotten the power of the resurrection? Is that something that you sort of leaned into and believed and signed on to at a younger point in your life, but now it's complicated. It's a complicated thing. The young people like to say that one. Okay? Maybe today is the day that you need to clean out the temple. Maybe today is the day where that carriage is stopping and you're not sure why it's stopping, but I'm going to get in. I'm going to take a ride. And I'm going to be reminded of the things that I used to know and believe. God's message for you this morning, clean it out. Clean it out. Be reminded of the things. Be reminded of the passion that you had when you were younger. Be reminded of who you were at a certain point. Be reminded of that and come back. And with that, I'm going to ask you to simply just take a moment. And we're going to sing the song, Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing, one more time. But we're going to do the contemporary version. And while we're doing that, I'm going to invite you to do a few things. One, you can pray right where you're at if you want to do that. Second, if you want to come forward, if you're part of your cleaning out the temple, part of your cleaning out the garage, part of cleaning it all out and starting over, if you need to come forward as a more visual and physical reaction to that, to come down front and pray, you're more than welcome to do that. But I invite you all to stand as we sing, and you can react, you can pray, you can do whatever you want as we sing this song.
Come thou fount of every blessing, tune my heart to sing thy grace. Streams of mercy never ceasing, call for songs of loudest praise. Teach me some melodious sonnet, sung by flaming tongues above. Praise the mount I'm fixed upon it, mount of thy redeeming love. I was lost in utter darkness till you came and rescued me. I was bound by all my sin when your love came and rescued me. Now my soul prone to wander, Lord, I feel it, prone to leave the God I love. Here's my heart, Lord, take and seal it for thy course above. How your kindness yet pursues me, how your mercy never fails me, till the day that death shall lose me. I will sing, oh, I will sing. Here's my heart, Lord, take and seal it for thy courts above.
You'll have a wonderful week, and we'll see you back here next Sunday. Go in peace to love and serve the Lord.